I think that Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies, they have a lot of pieces on this team. Ja Morant coming back, he is a superstar. He does everything you need from a point guard on the floor. But after all these years and the West getting better, I think the Memphis Grizzlies have to show in the West that they can be fine again.
For some weird reason, the Memphis Grizzlies are still not getting the respect they deserve. They're currently second in the West and are currently holding a record of 23-11 at the time that I'm recording this video. They currently have the 5th best win percentage in the league, behind only the Thunder, Knicks, Cavs, and Celtics, all of whom, besides maybe the Knicks, seem to be legitimate championship contenders. But while most of these teams, even the Rockets, are getting recognition, for some reason the Grizzlies aren't, and it doesn't really make sense. So in this video, we're going to shine a light on the Memphis Grizzlies comeback. Before we get to the content, make sure you drop, like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to get the latest NBA news to your device. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. We've been dominating when we've been making picks for the NBA and the NFL on Prize Picks. If you haven't played Prize Picks before and you're really good at guessing player projections, you can make yourself a decent amount of money. I give away my picks on my Instagram story at TheFlightMike, and right now when you use my promo code microphone and make an entry of $5 or more, you'll get a free $50. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? At the time that I'm recording this video, the Memphis Grizzlies have won 16 of their last 20 games, including posting 7 games over 130 points, a 51-point obliteration of the Golden State Warriors, setting a franchise record of almost 160 points against the Toronto Raptors, and a victory at Boston. So with them cruising through the league right now, a lot of people can't help but wonder why they're not getting seriously recognized. Of course, it could be because of Ja Morant's previous issues, as we all know, or the fact that there still may be some remnants of his former behavior lingering around. But the fact remains that when it comes to the basketball court, the Memphis Grizzlies are without question one of the league's elite teams. It's a crime to not consider them as such, even if their best player has been a little immature, and from time to time likes to flash a firearm on camera here or there.
Memphis Grizzlies star Ja Morant has been suspended for a second time after once again appearing to flash a gun on social media. A representative for Morant did not immediately respond to requests for comment.
But with all of that behind him, if we look beyond his past antics and to the game itself, it's obvious that Memphis is a team to take very seriously. They legitimately have one of the best 1-2 punches in the league with Ja Morant and former Defensive Player of the Year Jaren Jackson Jr. And while we're at it, we gotta discuss J Cubed, because he was once primarily known for his defense, but has become an absolute star in this league on both ends of the floor. Yet it goes beyond just them too. Desmond Bane, whose scoring is a bit down from last season due to the return of Ja Morant and the growth of others, has still averaged 17 points per game throughout his entire career and is extremely valuable as an all-around contributor. What makes this team really special beyond their star power and big three is their depth. They have the single best bench in the entire league, bar none. Not only do they lead the league in bench scoring per game with almost 50 per night, but they also lead it in assists, blocks, and 3-point percentage, and are second in rebounds. As you can see, their depth is a nightmare for teams. If you combine all of this together, the Grizzlies are actually the only team in the entire league that is top 5 in both offensive and defensive ratings, sitting at an absurd 5th in both. This is a clear sign of a team that is likely to go deep into the playoffs. If you look at the last decade, almost half of the teams to win championships have pulled this off. Amongst them are the 2014-15 Golden State Warriors, the 2016-17 Golden State Warriors, along with Kawhi Leonard's Raptors and last year's Boston Celtics. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that these Grizzlies are going to win the title this season. I'm simply saying that we need to take a lesson from Birdman and put some respect on their name. All jokes aside, when you look at this Grizzlies squad, despite the attention they're not receiving from the media, they're well ahead of schedule and in some seriously elite company. Dream Team member and Hall of Famer Chris Mullin actually spoke about the Grizzlies a few weeks ago after they crushed his Warriors.
Yeah, I think the Memphis Grizzlies, they've remade themselves. They've always been a physical, kind of grit and grind type of team. They're leading the league in scoring, 122 per game. But when you watch the game, their defense creates create offense. Then when they get in the half court, they got the ultimate weapon. They spread the floor, and Ja Morant gets to the paint. That's why so many of those three-point shots are wide open. They stick to the fundamentals and the principle. We're going to attack the paint first to create high-quality threes, not just launch threes up there.
Well, Memphis has reminded everybody that they are a threat in the Western Conference. Last year, Ja Morant gets hurt and suspended at the start of the season. They're back now, folks.
What's really wild about them is the fact that it's really easy to forget that both Morant and Jaren Jackson are still just 25 years old, while Desmond Bane is 26. Factor in that former Purdue legend and 7'4" behemoth Zach Edey is only 22 and is looking like a top 5 rookie, and that his fellow 21-year-old rookie Jalen Wells is capable of holding Steph Curry of all people to an astonishing 2 points on 0 of 6 from 3. And we can begin to see just how bright the future is for Memphis. And that's not even considering the fact that Gigi Jackson, who is scoring 15 points per game, literally just turned 20 years old. For them to be this good while they are this young is a terrifying sign for the rest of the NBA. Actually, by the numbers, they're the 5th youngest team in the league, behind only OKC, of course, as well as Portland, San Antonio, and Detroit. Being that OKC is the only one of those teams who are actually any good, we can see how impressive Memphis's roster is. However, it goes even further than that. We have to talk about their style of play. If you haven't watched them, then you seriously need to. Having retained only 2 assistant coaches from last season, their entire plan for their team is different. They started with bringing in Tuomas Lisalo, a guy who many consider to be the single best coach in European basketball. He led Paris to the 2023-24 Euro Cup Championship, as well as the French League Finals, and is known for his imaginative offensive coaching. Seeing that the Grizzlies led the league in scoring, I think it's safe to consider that we could all see Lisalo become a head coach in the NBA someday. In a league dominated by the pick and roll, the Grizzlies are making their schematic mark by utilizing a drive and cut approach that most teams aren't. They attack the paint relentlessly, but not recklessly, and often send cutters backdoor or into the lane even when their teammate is driving. Their 2-man interior game is incredibly fun to watch, and has less of a need of set plays or strictly isolation ball. To get somewhat of an idea of this, think of the way that the Houston Rockets played with James Harden, and think about the opposite of that. This pressure that the Grizzlies put on the paint places the opposing team's interior defense in a serious pickle. You could already see them toying with their new concepts as early as the preseason. In a league where defenders are constantly worried about spacing and have been conditioned to worry almost primarily about the 3-point line, Memphis, though they still take their fair share of threes, have a much larger repertoire. When they send a cutter, the defense's normal help defender is often stuck in no man's land, having to either step off to help the guy guarding the ball, which could be Ja Morant or Desmond Bane, or having to be aware of their own man, who's not just sitting around the 3-point line anymore. Not only does this go against a lot of the defensive principles that are central to defending other teams, but when you're going against a team as talented as Memphis that also plays at the fastest pace in the NBA, it's certainly not a good time. But this isn't to say that they're masking anything. Memphis is a top 13 team in 3-point percentage, and you can see why their offense is as good as it is. What's funny about their whole situation, though, is that their biggest enemy throughout all their ups and downs, as we all know, has been their leader, Ja Morant. As you guys know, when he played 61 games in the 2022-23 season, the Grizzlies went 51-31, won their division, and finished the regular season as the 2nd seed in the West. Last year, following the departure of Dillon Brooks, in addition to trading Tyus Jones for Marcus Smart, that simply wasn't the case. Ja would only play in 9 games, and they would finish a horrendous 27-55, which was good for 13th in the West. Of course, they also had a historical list of other injury problems last year that contributed to their disastrous season, so it wasn't Ja alone. But now with a mostly healthier roster and their depth on full display, the Grizzlies are dominating, with guys like 6'11" Santi Aldama shooting almost 40% from deep as a stretch 4 off of the bench, as well as Luke Kennard, who has shot an absurd 48% from 3 since joining Memphis in the 2022-23 season, continuing to light it up. At the time that I'm making this video, the Grizzlies are only behind the Thunder and just recently squeaked ahead of the Houston Rockets in the West. But we can't forget about Scottie Pippen Jr., who's quietly having a really good season and even had a 30-10 game last month. But somehow, it goes even further than their depth and new offense. Evidence of their growth is their newfound ability to play without Ja, which was something that they got down pat before his injury last year, but obviously that wasn't the case last year. Ja has missed 12 games this season, and for comparison, last year they won a pathetic 21 out of 73 games without him, while going 6-3 with him. But this season, it's way different. While they are 14-6 with him in the lineup, lineup, they still have somehow managed to be 8-5 without him. If that's not positive team growth, then I don't know what is. And I think a lot of it has to do with their coaches and players learning how to navigate the ship without Ja being around last season, as well as some increase in talent. Sometimes the best thing for a crew is to lose its captain so that everyone has to learn how to survive without him. After last year's struggles, it seems like the Grizzlies have done just that. Still, it's a weird thing with him, because you can say what you want about the decisions he's made, but when it comes to what he means to that organization, it's pretty evident. He just has this startlingly contagious personality. Even when he's not playing, he just has this energy about him that positively carries over to the rest of his team and gives them confidence. And you can see it when he's on the bench in street clothes that his teammates react positively to his mere presence around them. Just look at how he casually strolls over to Marcus Smart during his interview and lightens up the whole conversation after Smart dropped 25 weeks ago.
Put some respect on my dog name, man, and end the convo right there.
The thing about him is that it's not like he puts up absurd numbers that other stars like Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, and Jason Tatum do. However, when you consider that the MVP award is supposed to go to the guy that means the most to their organization's success, it's hard to consider many other players having such a titanic impact on the totality of their franchise. Then, when he does step on the court, and maybe this is a reach, it reminds me a little bit of the way defenses had to change their entire schemes for Deshaun Jackson when he was playing football for the Philadelphia Eagles. Even when he wasn't putting up crazy numbers, it was just his mere presence out there that changed everything for them and made defenses question their decision making. To me, it's the same with Ja Morant. You have to be aware of him at all times, and not just for his scoring. He has drastically improved his playmaking as well, even though the numbers don't necessarily reflect it. And while that could be in large part due to their new system, it could also be a major reflection of his personal growth. Then again, it could also be as simple as he is just getting closer to entering his prime. Either way, when Memphis is at its best, whether he is on the court or not, a lot of it has to do with the charisma that he brings to the locker room. If Ja Morant can stay healthy this year, with there being one of the top teams on both ends of the floor, I literally don't think it's any joke to think Memphis will make a deep playoff run. Actually, and I know this may sound crazy, but if Ja can stay out of trouble, then I consider them an actual threat to win a championship this year. To do so while giving us a team that is actually fun to watch play could be a fabulous thing for the game of basketball right now. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.